My name is Elias. At my brother's wedding, they pinned my picture to the front gate with the words, "Do not enter." No warning. No explanation. Just my face, crossed out like I was a danger, an infection, a stain they didn't want near their celebration. What kind of family does that? And still, that wasn't even the sharpest cut. The real wound came later, when I heard them laugh behind closed doors, rewrite the past, and hand my effort, my devotion to someone else like it was theirs from the beginning. I didn't beg. I didn't argue. I tugged one thread and watched everything unravel. Ask yourself, what kind of silence can collapse a wedding? The letter arrived on a Wednesday morning, slipped under my apartment door like it had crawled in by itself. Thick, heavy paper, the kind that dusts your fingertips like powdered arrogance. My brother always liked things that seemed luxurious, but felt hollow. Inside, my name stared back at me, except it wasn't really my name. Elliot Thorne, printed underneath the groom's coworker, buried inside a list so long it looked like corporate waste paper. No handwriting. No warmth. No trace of family. Just sterile ink and manufactured formality. It took a moment to register. A wedding invitation. The irony crept in slow and sickening. I was the one who found the venue. The one calling florists last spring while he didn't have time. I lent him my savings for the deposit. And here I was, misspelled, mislabeled, squeezed in like an afterthought. The font was silver. Compromise masquerading as luxury. I stood there in the kitchen, sunlight slicing across the card, realizing this was the first time my brother had written to me in years. And even then, he hadn't touched the card. A machine did. By noon, I'd folded it neatly and set it beside the coffee maker. I told myself it was just a mistake. But deep down, I knew Arlen didn't make mistakes. He delivered messages. That weekend, Mother called about a brunch for the wedding team. Her voice was painfully cheerful. "You'll come, won't you, sweetheart? Arlen really wants you there. Wants me there." In our family, that phrase meant something else entirely. We don't want a scene, so show up, smile, and stay quiet. I did what I always did. I said yes. Sunday morning, I sat in my car outside the Linden Room, an aesthetic little cafe where even the chairs seemed auditioned for social media. Through the window, I saw Arlen already seated with Mother, Aunt Helena, and several of her friends. Their table was cluttered with swatch books, venue pamphlets, pastry towers no one touched. I checked my reflection, steadied my breath, and walked in. "Elias." Arlen's voice floated across the room, bright, practiced, hollow. "You made it." No hook. No jeszcze. Just a quick flick of her wrist toward a chair on the far end. "Iset." The conversation never paused. Mother debated napkin shades. Helena fussed over seating charts. Arlen fretted if champagne gold was too overdone for 2026. Words bubbled around me. Pretty, weightless, disposable. 15 minutes passed before I spoke. "The gardens at Ashridge House would photograph beautifully," I murmured. "You'd catch the sunset through the elms." It was the same suggestion I gave months ago, back when planning was just dreams and Arlen still answered my calls. She didn't even lift her eyes. "We're aiming for a polished aesthetic," she said, slicing a raspberry with absurd precision. "Not amateur Pinterest boards." Silence settled. Then someone, probably Helena, let out a small laugh. It crawled under my skin. I smiled back, fingers twisting the napkin in my lap. "Of course," I whispered. Wouldn't want to lower the tone. The laugh that followed was old and rehearsed, light, fake, polished. "You're funny," she said, the way people do when they want a moment to end without actually acknowledging it. By the time the check arrived, my coffee sat there, cold and untouched. I excused myself early, pretending I had a work deadline. No one stopped me. Outside, the air was warm and heavy, carrying that faint salt smell Savannah never really lets go of. I walked slowly to my car, letting the rush of traffic drown the echo of their laughter. Inside, I turned the key but didn't shift out of park. The hum of the engine sat in my chest like a heartbeat I didn't belong to. Through the windshield, families wandered the sidewalks. Couples with ice cream, kids chasing each other, people living ordinary life. Life that keeps going, no matter who isn't invited into it anymore. I thought about Eleanor, How her laugh once sounded when it wasn't part of a performance. We used to bake cookies, burn half the pan, and laugh until we were breathless. 10 years ago. Now even her joy had time slots. The drift between us hadn't been sudden. It was small things. Unanswered messages. Quietly canceled plans. Birthday cards signed with only her name, no note, no warmth. Drop by drop, like water hollowing stone. Somewhere along the line, I stopped being her sister, and became a reminder of a version of our family she'd rather not display. A truth she didn't want polished into the life she was curating. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Wasn't it lovely today? Eleanor was so glad you came. Lovely. That word again. The blanket you throw over things too uncomfortable to say plainly. I typed back, sure. She looked happy, then erased it. I set the phone face down and switched off the engine. The silence felt sharper than anything said at that table. As the sun sank, I rolled down the window. Warm air drifted in, magnolia blooms and exhaust fumes. Two things that didn't belong together, yet somehow coexisted. Just like family. A wedding invitation with the wrong name. A brunch seat filled by obligation, not belonging. A sister smiling like a stranger. Things don't always break. Sometimes they just fade until you don't recognize the shape anymore. I sat there until the streetlights buzzed awake. Evening moved around me while I stayed still. Unsure whether I wanted to cry or laugh. Neither came. When I finally went home, the invitation waited on the counter, right where I'd left it. Silver lettering catching the lamp's glow as I passed. I almost tossed it, but something in me wanted proof. A paper trail that whispered, you weren't forgotten, just placed somewhere they didn't have to see you. I slid it into the kitchen drawer. The soft click felt like closure. They want me there, I murmured. Just enough to say they tried. I barely slept. That quiet click replayed in my head. Not angry, not dramatic. Just final. Morning came like routine. Made coffee I didn't drink. Opened emails on autopilot. Then I saw it. A subject line sliding in mid-scroll. Final seating plus backup plan in case she comes. At first my brain filed it as spam. Then I saw the sender. Lena Marshall, Eleanor's maid of honor, her college roommate. The same person who once gave me a mug that said world's best quiet overachiever. I thought it was sweet then. Now I wasn't so sure. I clicked it open. I opened it. Bullet points. Floral design notes, guest list adjustments, seating strategy. I skimmed without absorbing anything. Until the last line, tucked between a valet reminder and a link titled Aldrich Family Preferences. Make sure she's not there. She throws off the energy. I stared at those 7 words like they were written in another language. I even whispered them aloud, testing if they meant something else. They didn't. There was no mistaking no mistaking the intention. And absolutely no mistaking that I was never supposed to see it. My stomach didn't drop so much as go silent, the way the world pauses right before an earthquake. A minute later, another email landed. Subject: sending to wrong person, ignore. No message. Just an empty box, and Lara's initials sitting there like a watermark stamped in embarrassment. I didn't reply. I just stared until my screen dimmed on its own. My hands trembled in my lap. Not from anger, not yet. What I felt was vacancy, like someone had erased me from a photograph so thoroughly the background had been repainted. I walked to the sink and washed my hands. They weren't dirty. Outside, Savannah kept breathing. Joggers passing by. A mother juggling a stroller and iced latte. A dog barking somewhere distant. Life humming along, indifferent to the fact that my history with my sister had just been reduced to a single bullet on a wedding planning email. Beneath the hurt, something settled. Quiet and definite. I went to my desk, opened my laptop, and logged into the finance folder I hadn't touched since transferring $7,000 to hold the venue. Willow Harbor Estate. Confirmed in my account history. My digital signature. My billing address. My card, my transaction. And yet on the couple's wedding website, adored by the Aldrich family and applauded by future in-laws, the caption beneath the venue photo read, generously hosted by the Aldrich family. I sat with it. Let it steep. Not rage, clarity. I wasn't simply excluded. I was a stepping stone they wiped their shoes on after crossing. I closed the laptop slowly. No slamming. That would have given the moment more power than they deserved. My phone buzzed. Mom. Hi, sweetheart, she cooed. Eleanor mentioned you seemed off. Everything okay? I hesitated. Did she say anything about an email? Silence. Too smooth to be innocent. What email? She asked, voice tight. Then quickly. You know weddings. Eleanor just said you've been difficult. Difficult. That word lands like a smile with a knife. Difficult is what they call you when you stop shrinking to fit their comfort. When you stop being useful on cue. I'm fine, I said. Just tired. She loves you, Mom rushed. She just shows it differently. I didn't respond. There's only so long you can call cruelty love before you start blaming yourself for bleeding. After the call, the apartment felt too quiet, trying politely not to stare at me. I grabbed a coat and walked. Savannah smelled like salt and late fall. I passed the bakery with vanilla in the air, the bookstore with postcards taped in the window, and drifted to the riverside park. My bench waited. Chipped paint, same magnolia tree. I sat, arms folded, letting the wind sift through me. A sparrow hopped near my foot, pecking at crumbs with casual confidence. Something about its stubborn aliveness hurt. People think betrayal is noisy. A scream. A slammed door. But it's not. It's quiet. It's graceful. It's an invitation spelled wrong. A bill paid in silence. A spreadsheet deleting your name without comment. I thought of all the tiny cuts over the years. Eleanor laughing once and saying, "You don't exactly fit his family's aesthetic, but that's okay." Mom calling me the dependable one, while Eleanor was the sparkle. And still I kept giving. Time. Money. Grace. Believing being useful would keep me close. But all I did was fund the stage they built a life on, one where I didn't exist. I stood. The sparrow startled and lifted off. I didn't blame it. On the walk back, the sky softened toward dusk. My apartment greeted me like someone choosing not to speak. The drawer where the invitation rested felt like a bruise on the room. I didn't open it. I didn't need proof anymore. I filled a glass of water, stood in silence. My reflection stared back in the window, still me, but altered. Older. Sharpened. They're building a wedding on my back, I whispered. And erasing me from the picture. I said it once so it would exist somewhere outside my thoughts. Then I turned off the light. They wouldn't hear me yell. But one day soon, they would hear the quiet. And understand what happens when the person holding everything up finally steps away. Sleep came in shards. By late morning, sunlight stretched across the kitchen table, landing squarely on the manila folder waiting there. Invoices for Willow Harbor Estate. Documents I had promised to drop off. I hadn't planned to return, not so soon, but that folder sat like unfinished business. I showered, tied my hair back, and took the long walk along the riverfront. Salt hung in the air, gulls bickering overhead like petty relatives. The estate was 20 minutes away. As I turned down the road lined with old oaks, I made a conscious effort to keep my jaw loose. Habit born from years of swallowing things. At the gate, the guard nodded, like I still belonged. I didn't correct him. Inside, the main house was cool, steeped in quiet history that made strangers lower their voices. Near the staircase, a display stood ready for some future celebration. Candles, easels, a velvet backdrop, and a blown-up portrait of Eleanor with her fiancé at sunset. My breath stalled. I knew that moment. I had taken that photo. Last-minute change, his cousin couldn't make it. Eleanor had asked if I could take a few shots, until the real ones. She wore pale champagne, and we laughed between frames. For a second, I believed we were repairing something. I stepped closer. The shot was gorgeous. Balanced. Golden. Dreamlike. But the space where I had stood? Gone. Cropped with surgical precision. Light recalibrated. Shadows softened. As though nothing and no one had ever stood there at all. Even the loose strand of Eleanor's hair that brushed my cheek had been smoothed away. If you didn't know, you'd never know. But I did. The shock wasn't sharp. It was a tilt, subtle and disorienting. I steadied myself against the guest book stand. A staff member in a navy jacket approached, polite smile in place. "Can I help you?" I lifted the folder. Invoices for the coordinator. I'll see they get them, he said. No questions. No curiosity. No acknowledgement of the ghost standing where she once mattered. I handed it over and turned. But my eye caught a small sign beneath the photo. A love story captured by family. Family. Outside, the heat wrapped around me. I stood under a porch fan spinning uselessly above. For a moment, I imagined walking back in, pointing at the print, and saying, I took that. But some erasures are designed to leave no trace worth arguing over. When someone removes you cleanly, all you can hold is the outline of what used to be. The drive home blurred, trees and rooftops smearing into streaks of color. I didn't remove my shoes. I walked straight to my desk and opened my mother's Facebook page. Cape Cod sunset banner. Blue add friend button. We were no longer connected. I checked albums. Birthdays, dinners, vacations. Spaces where I once stood now held cropped edges. Blank corners. Gaps masquerading as design. On one Christmas photo, the backdrop sliced abruptly where my body should have been. Neat edits. But geometry remembers what was there. I clicked message and typed. Did I do something I don't know about? It sent, then grayed out. A new notice. You can no longer message this user. The laptop shut with more force than intended. I needed something real, not digital, not curated. I pulled a box from the hall closet. Photos scrawled in my father's handwriting. Inside old albums. I opened one. Pages yellowed but intact. Childhood. Frosting on our faces, school recitals, summers thick with humidity and laughter. Halfway through I found it. Me at 12, holding a crooked birthday cake I'd baked for Eleanor. She had one arm looped through mine, laughing as frosting slipped. Her smile then? Unrehearsed. Untouched. I turned it over. My father's handwriting read. To my sunshine, don't ever let anyone dim your light. I read it again. And again. No lecture. No explanation. Just truth. The phone rang. I let it go. Eleanor's voice spilled into voicemail, bright, breezy, false. Hey, heard you stopped by. Boundaries are important right now. No hard feelings, okay? Boundaries. The kind meant to erase, not protect. Another message. Laura this time. That email was out of context. You know how planning gets. We're just curating a certain feel. Please don't take it personally. Curating. Like I was clutter. Rain began, soft, uncertain. I watched families rush under awnings. A boy shielding his mother with a grocery bag. Love without performance. I brewed chamomile tea. My father's favorite. He used to look at me and ask, are they treating you like a human or like a task? I opened the drawer and pulled out the invitation. Silver letters, thick paper. A formal welcome addressed to someone who didn't exist anymore. Then I sat at my laptop again. This time, I opened a new document and made a list. Vendors. Contracts. Dates. Accounts tied to my name. The foundation they built on me was about to be removed. I added a line beneath the list. A reminder to myself, not proof for anyone else. Photo cropped at lobby display, silence made visible. At the bottom I wrote, stop holding up things they pretend don't exist. Later that evening, a cousin texted, saw your sister's engagement print at the venue. Wait, we took that picture together, didn't we? Where'd you go in the shot? I answered simply, they edited the frame. Then nothing. I didn't chase the silence. That night, I took out the trash, receipts, wrappers, the rubber band from the invitation. On the porch, someone's radio carried a soft old tune. I stood there until it ended. It felt like the only blessing in a day that offered none. Inside, the house settled around me. Not peaceful, just still. A stillness earned through exhaustion, not comfort. I wasn't furious. Not in the way people expect anger to look. This feeling was firmer. Quiet. Anchored. They had cropped the photo. Ignored the message. Edited me out of albums like I was a smudge. But that line in my father's handwriting, never let anyone steal your light, that survived everything they tried to erase. I didn't want my identity to be built around what I refused to accept. I wanted it built around what I chose. And choosing started here. Morning opened like it always did. I made coffee, put on my slate gray jacket, the one for vendor meetings, and pretended this was just another errand. Just one last task before the wedding storm swallowed the weekend. I didn't expect to see anyone. I only wanted closure. The road to Willow Harbor curved through marshland, the late summer air thick with salt and something faintly sour beneath it. Spanish moss hung over branches like faded lace. A familiar soul song played, one my father used to hum. And for those small minutes, I pretended today was ordinary. Then the white iron gates came into view. A young guard stepped from the booth, shifting awkwardly. I lowered the window halfway. "Morning," I said steady. "Magnolia Reed. Dropping final documents for the wedding." He shifted, adjusting his cap. "Mung. I was told not to let you in." I blinked. "Excuse me." "They left instructions," he mumbled. "Said you need authorization." My grip tightened on the steering wheel. "I'm the one who booked this venue." He swallowed. "I don't know the details, I just follow the notes." A strange calm washed over me, cold, deliberate. I parked, stepped out and asked quietly, "Show me." He pointed at a paper taped to the gatepost. I walked closer. A printed photo of my face. A thick red slash across it. "Do not enter." The marker strokes were jagged, angry, rushed, like someone needed the paper to hurt. Cicadas buzzed in the trees. The edges of the page fluttered. I stared at my own crossed-out face, like a warning sign. A threat. A stain. For a moment, I didn't know whether to laugh or crumble. Both felt appropriate. "Who put this here?" I asked, voice level. He stared at his shoes. "It was already posted when I started." I inhaled hard. "Thank you." I walked back to the car. Reversed slowly. Left the gate. And the violence of that red slash behind me. The phone buzzed once, then stilled. I didn't look. Silence filled the car like water rising in a locked room. At the next light, I finally picked up my phone. No missed calls. No messages. I dialed Eleanor. One ring. Voicemail. "Hi, it's Eleanor. Leave a message." "Eleanor," I whispered. "I saw what you did. You crossed a line." I hung up. Then called my mother. Blocked. I typed. "Did you know? They put my picture on the gate with 'Do not enter.' Please call me." Sent. Read. Silence. I wrote another. "You can't erase me and still use my money." I deleted it. Back home, storm clouds stacked in the sky. I dropped my bag, filled the kettle, waited for it to scream. When it did, I didn't move. The apartment felt too still. Like everything inside it was holding its breath. I checked voicemail again. Deleted the message. Clean break. At the kitchen window, I stared at my reflection. Not broken. Not fragile. Just finished. "I'm done," I whispered. It wasn't grief. It wasn't rage. It was finality. The kind you don't come back from. My phone buzzed. A post from a mutual friend. Rehearsal dinner. Love is family. A photo. Eleanor, mom, cousins, everyone smiling. Everyone present. Except me. I scrolled through comments. Not one mention of me. Old tags gone. Like I never belonged there at all. I set my phone face down and wrapped my hands around a mug that had gone cold. For years, I thought my father's words, "Never let anyone steal your light," meant forgiving, holding on, showing grace. But maybe he meant something else. Maybe he meant, protect yourself from people who think your light belongs to them. Rain started tapping against the glass, gentle at first. I pulled the old photo album back out, the one with the birthday cake smeared across my face. Me and my sister laughing like the world couldn't touch us. I didn't study it to understand anymore. I just let it be what it was. The phone rang. A known number. I shouldn't have answered, but I did. "Hey, it's Bryn." Her voice was small. Careful. "I don't know what you think happened." "You mean the part where my face was taped to a gate?" I cut her off. "That wasn't my idea," she rushed. "She just didn't want drama." I laughed. A sharp, tired sound. "You erased me, blocked me, banned me. And I'm the drama?" Silence. "She's your sister," she whispered. "She was," I said. And I hung up. The storm hit hard then. Heavy rain like the sky finally caught up to the truth. But I didn't cry. You can't cry for doors you've already closed. Later, when the storm eased, the world looked unchanged. Cars moved. People laughed. Life went on. Even without me in their picture. I opened the wedding contract folder. My name still on the documents. My money still holding the ground they were standing on. And for the first time in months, I felt steady. If they closed the gate on me, I whispered to myself, I'll close the vault. I emailed the venue. Withdrew all authorization. Froze the $7,000 deposit under my name. Not revenge. Just reclamation. When the manager called, she sounded nervous. This affects the wedding, she warned. I'm done renting space in a story that doesn't include me, I said. And then I let silence answer for me. Later, I saw a post from my sister. Smiling in someone else's kitchen. Posing with a KitchenAid mixer. The one I bought her. No thanks. No mensjen. I typed, that gift was from me. Then deleted it. Not because she didn't deserve truth, but because I finally understood. They would rather amputate memory than admit where they came from. So I made lemon cake. My dad's favorite. Something that didn't need applause to be real. Something mine. And when another picture appeared, my mother, arms around my sister, proud, glowing, I felt nothing sharp. Just distance. Like watching a movie I used to love before I knew how it ended. At 9:37 p.m., the street outside was quiet. And for the first time, so was I. They didn't erase me. They only lost access. I stepped out of their frame. And finally saw myself clearly. The next morning, the email arrived. Deposit frozen. Contract closed. And with a single click, I wasn't just done with them. I was free. The funds stayed frozen. A polite thank you note arrived from the venue, praising my professionalism. I replied with one word, acknowledged. Then I took the last lemon cupcake outside. Rain still clung to the pavement. The morning smelled clean, like something had ended and something else was waiting to begin. Let them celebrate on borrowed ground, I whispered. The next days were quiet. Too quiet. Silence that didn't comfort, it warned. By Thursday, I almost believed the storm had passed. I should have known better. Jenny from work, sweet, sunshine Jenny, texted me. Hey, is this you? A photo loaded. Me. Outside the venue. Caught mid-blink, mid-pain. Captioned. When you show up uninvited and still ruin the vibe. A watermark below, Granger wedding tea. No guessing. My sister didn't just erase me, she memofied me. I typed thanks for letting me know, and nothing more. Cruelty disguised as humor is still cruelty. They weren't laughing with me. They were laughing at the space they carved me out of. By lunch, the meme had spread. A coworker hovered at my desk, awkward. People are dumb. I nodded. Because this wasn't stupidity. It was strategy. That evening, another link arrived. A video. Her bridal shower. Who's most likely to hold a grudge and ruin a party? Someone asked. They all shouted. They all laughed. And my sister held up a cup taped with my face. Smiling like it was legacy. Tradition, she joked. Tradition. That's what I was to them. A generational punchline. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I sat in silence so heavy it felt like armor forming. At 10 p.m., I drafted an email to the venue manager. Subject: legal inquiry, contractual privacy breach. I asked if staff release guest images without consent. The language was calm, surgical. But I didn't send it. Not yet. Because revenge isn't rage. It's architecture. I turned off the lights and stood at the window. City glowing below. My reflection calm, unshaken. They thought humiliation would shrink me. But humiliation only shrinks the hollow. I still had a spine. And I still had receipts. Before midnight, I began a list. Dates. Screenshots. Posts. Not emotion, evidence. They wanted to write me out of the story. But they forgot. I still hold the pen. Sleep didn't come. But morning did. I dressed quietly. Not in grief. Not in spite. Just in resolve. Midday, a message popped up. From Evelyn, the intern I once mentored. You'll want to see this. I opened the link. A wedding live stream. Rows of empty chairs. Floral arches drooping. A banner. Wedding ceremony live. Except it wasn't celebration. It was unraveling. Then Evelyn stepped to the mic. Her voice didn't shake. I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for someone who isn't in this room. You all made sure she wouldn't be. The room froze. Murmurs. Nervous laughter. A tremor where arrogance had lived just hours before. And for the first time, I exhaled. Not in vindication, but in recognition. Sometimes the universe doesn't clap back. Sometimes it simply reveals. And when it does, silence gets very, very loud. Evelyn didn't falter. She named names. She spoke of photos where I was cropped out, invitations lost, seating charts that somehow forgot me, how my own sister had drawn a circle and made sure I stood outside it. A voice rose from the audience. You're her mentor? Evelyn nodded. Yes. And this isn't a wedding. It's a silent war. And silence only protects those who abuse it. My chest tightened. Not from pain, from recognition. For years, I thought grace meant stepping back. Quiet exits. Polite absence. But silence had cost me. And now someone else was speaking where I once swallowed everything whole. On screen, my sister's face cracked, poise slipping, eyes darting. The camera caught every tremor. No editing trick would save it now. The world reacted fast. Do not erase family. Magnus deserved better. #GrangerGate. Old photos resurfaced. Tagged comments. Client reviews. Financial whispers buried under polished branding. The facade shattered in real time. An article spread like wildfire. When a bride values her image more than her blood. Messages poured in. Friends, strangers, even people I'd never meet. Shock. Support. A collective exhale of finally, someone said it. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. By evening, the unraveling was complete. Sponsors vanished. Vendors withdrew. The chandelier dimmed midnight. Guests slipped out like guilt on quiet feet. An empty ballroom, echoing excuses. Evelyn stood with a small circle who stayed. Not for spectacle, but for truth. Then the screen went black. I powered off my phone. Silence filled the room. Not tense, not hollow. Just released. I didn't crash the wedding. I whispered. They crashed their own. Midnight passed. Sleep didn't come. The dark ceiling above felt heavy with ghosts. Laughter I was never meant to hear. Cameras that erased me before the flash even faded. Then a vibration. A new message. Not spam. Not weather. A family group chat. Accidentally forwarded to me. I wasn't named, but I lived between every line. Don't let her in. Even her face is bad luck. She brings bad energy. Keep her out. My thumb paused. The old version of me wanted to justify, defend, beg. Instead, I pressed delete. One tap. Years of script gone. Their definitions no longer fit me. Their narrative no longer owned me. Dawn touched the edges of the sky. I reached for a yellowed envelope tucked between books. Edges soft with time. My father's handwriting curling across the front. I opened it carefully. Paper whispering across my fingers. Magnus, my youngest. You are the light in this family. If they forget, you don't have to carry their blindness. Keep being light. I held the letter to my chest. His voice, alive through ink and memory. I needed air. I needed horizon. The drive to the ocean was quiet. Salt wind. Unfiltered sky. Waves speaking the language of things that refused to be small. On a strip of driftwood, I read his letter aloud again. Voice trembling, but steady enough. I forgive them, I whispered. But I won't shrink for them anymore. The tide rose to meet my feet. Cool, certain. This wasn't revenge. This was return. Reclamation. Some stories aren't erased, they evolve. Some roots grow in the dark and still find light. I went home as morning claimed the day. The letter went on the mantel, beside the only family photo where I wasn't erased, and my father's watch, still set to his last Sunday. My phone lit up again. This time kindness. We see you. You deserved better. Do not erase family. I didn't need validation. But recognition, soft, steady mattered. Curtains closed. Light slipped through anyway. Truth is heavy, yes. But sometimes it anchors instead of drowns. I chose my own entrance now. And I didn't need a gate to walk through. Dawn came gentle, silver brushing across the floor. Birdsong. Distant footsteps. Life, moving forward without apology. I dressed simply. No musk. No armor but honesty. Dea stepping. House breathing. Silence no longer punishment, but peace. At the door, hand on the lock, I didn't hesitate. I stepped into mourning. Lease papers rustled in my pocket. The bakery key to a future they never thought I'd build. And I walked forward, not invited, not excluded, but self-declared. My vow wasn't spoken under an arch or printed in gold foil. It sat folded in my coat pocket, simple legal mine. The drive was short. Familiar streets. Shops still stretching awake. But the bakery, that was new. That was mine. Tall paned windows. A bookstore on one side, an antique shop on the other. I had signed the lease months ago, before everything fractured. It was meant to begin after the wedding. But the wedding evaporated like smoke mid-scene. I unlocked the door. The hinge creaked, greeting, not complaint. Inside smelled like new tile, faint paint and possibility. I touched the counter. Solid wood. Waiting. I lifted the ceramic mixing bowl and set it down, deliberate. A beginning. I flipped the sign. Closed open. By mid-morning, jars of cookies lined the counter. A fresh lemon loaf, my father's favorite, sat near the window. Handwritten tags in careful script. The first customer came slowly. A woman in linen and a wide-brimmed hat. She held a printed sheet. Evelyn's speech. She paused at the doorway, studying me. "You're Magnus," she whispered. I nodded. "I watched what they did," she said softly. "And I heard what you didn't say. Your silence spoke louder than their cruelty." My throat tightened. She smiled, gentle and sure. "I'm rooting for you." We spoke of markets, of beginnings, of recipes passed down and revived. She bought the lemon loaf. "For my granddaughter," she said. "And a little for me." When she left, the door closed with a softness that felt like blessing. Something in me loosened, like a gate unlocking from the inside. More people came. A man from down the block. A woman who once knew my mother. A child asking about sprinkles. A childhood friend I hadn't seen in years. "I heard," she murmured. "And I'm proud of you." Each person became a brick in a foundation I was finally building for myself. As the afternoon thinned into amber light, I wrote on the chalkboard. We rise, not to crush, but to remember who we are. I stepped back. Read it silently. Let the truth land. Evening arrived, gentle and unassuming. I wiped counters. Swept flour dust into small, forgiving piles. One lamp above the register glowed warm. A lighthouse in miniature. In the back, I took out Evelyn's speech. Read it again. Every word, a stepping stone. A voice when I'd been quiet. Not because I was weak, but because I was waiting. I folded the pages small and tucked them in a drawer, not discarded, just resting. I returned to the front. The street was dark now. Harbor air brushed my face. A neighbor waved. A child pedaled past. Behind me, light spilled from the bakery. Gold and alive, smelling faintly of sugar and new beginnings. Sometimes victory isn't loud. It isn't applause or headlines. Sometimes it's a loaf cooling on a rack. A hand flipping a sign. A door that stays open. I pressed my palm to the wood. Whispered, "Only for me." Sometimes silence isn't surrender. It's grace, louder than any shout. I locked the door and stepped into the night. Upright. Whole. Sometimes the deepest betrayal doesn't come from enemies, but from the ones we once called home. And sometimes walking away is not escape, but arrival. So I ask you, have you ever been pushed out by family? Or found power in leaving what no longer serves you? If this story touched you, subscribe for more real stories of reclamation, healing, and quiet strength.